right. Mr. Barton, you ready?
I'm ready.
Mr. Harvey? Mr. Reed? Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Great. I call this Nelson County Board of Supervisors meeting, March 8th, the regular meeting to order. If we could all rise for a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Barton, if you could lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. All right. It's nice to have a crowd on a Tuesday afternoon. Thank you all for being here. We are going to go ahead and begin the public comments.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Before we start,
Oh,
can
yeah.
I add something to the agenda?
Yes, we need to make that.
We already have item 8, which is a closed session. I wanted to add to the motion for convening 2.2-3711 A3 and A6.
Okay. Is that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have support.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. Thank you, sir, for the housekeeping. Moving into public comments, we have some folks who've signed up to speak today, and we will be giving you all 3 minutes to speak. If you are speaking with a group, if you could identify the group and let in your comment, and you'll be given 5 minutes. It'll be at my discretion if we're going to give you 30 seconds. I do have this handy dandy little sign here that I'm going to do my best to use in this meeting. I'll have to keep in time. So I'll try to give you 30 seconds heads up before you get close to the end. Other than that, if you could, just state your name and state your address for the record. And we'll get out of here later this afternoon. So, all right. First, you got time, Mr. Reed, you were a timekeeper. All right, first up, we have Charles Edwards.
My name is Charles Edwards, a homeowner at 241 Truslows Lane, which is an adjacent property to the proposed tiny house campground. I'm opposed to the special use permit for a commercial establishment within our neighborhood. The approval of this commercial undertaking could negatively affect the property values of the residents who chose this location for its rural quality. It's not appropriate to mix commercial and residential properties within the same footprint, as the character of our rural neighborhood will be diminished by having transient visitors traveling to and from this commercial property with little regard for the residents who have invested in the neighborhood. The applicants for the special use permit cited Getaway, Shenandoah, and Greene County as an example of what they wanted to do at Truslows. At their recommendation, my wife and I traveled to Greene County to view Getaway. What we found was not comparable to what the applicants are requesting at Truslows. The property was not located within or adjacent to a residential area as this project would be. The service road was 1/4 mile from Route 230 to the development of over 45 tiny homes, which were not viewable from any of the roads that serve the area. This project's trailers would be located just 75 feet from Truslows Lane, viewable by anyone traveling the road. The roads to Getaway, Route 33 and Virginia 230 were wide, and the entrance road had a great view of Virginia 230 in both directions. The roads into Truslow were narrow, with many blind curves, and the proposed entrance at the top of hill 185 feet from a blind intersection with Bottom Lane. There was 24/7 on-site management at Getaway. The applicant proposes to supervise the property from afar, thus leaving supervision to residents who must then call and wait for management intervention of potential problems within our neighborhood. I agree with the applicants that Getaway Shenandoah is a great example of how a tiny house campground should look and operate. However, this is not what the applicants are proposing. They have indeed compared apples to oranges. I urge the board to deny the request and protect the property owners and taxpayers of Trustlows Lane,
30
Bottom
seconds.
Lane, and Berry Hill Road. Our collective concerns of over 40 residents should outweigh the vision of two entrepreneurs wishing to disrupt our neighborhood with a commercial development.
Thank you, sir. All right, next on the agenda, Michael.
Afternoon. My name is Mike Walters. I live at 119 Old Ridge Road. Same complaint pretty much. But there's a bar in my neighborhood, right? It's a staple of my neighborhood. Everyone loves it. I would never stifle anybody's business, right? But I think the zoning board and VDOT created such a liability within this county. So specifically Old Ridge Road and Woods Mill Lane or State Route 786 or 786. There's turning right onto Old Ridge Road off 29 North is a nightmare. There's already been accidents. I'm gonna be back here to say I told you so. Not you guys, but the zoning board issued a permit 5-6 years ago. I don't know how that went down, but I think now we gotta support him, right? The road can't support two-lane traffic. I mean, he probably has 1,000 cars up there on a weekend. There's 50 houses back on Old Ridge Road. Hopefully VDOT will do something. I've reached out to them, I've sent them pictures, I've called them, I've emailed them, and I came to realize that just ignore citizens. So if you could consider even a 12-month project trying to get them to put a road counter on that road in the fall, I'd be very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Piercy.
Sir, I'm William Piercy, 608 14th Cove, Livingston. I'd just like to acknowledge the project pipeline survey that's online now that the citizens of our county should take advantage of to give some feedback on what the options that they're considering for the intersection there at 29 and Front Street or 56 there. It's a very good survey, and it's nice to know that they are requesting or looking for some feedback. So that was my main point, just to acknowledge that there is a survey online and that we should take advantage of it. And I appreciate you guys' time. And if you could give citizens here in the county the feedback, I'm pretty sure this organization is called Project Pipeline. Really got nothing to do with pipelines. It's a survey about the roads. And they're regional, just Nelson County and Albemarle and so forth. There's, I think, 4 or 5 different projects that they're conducting this survey to find out. But none of the 5 options that they're presenting for evaluation 1 through 5, according to which ones we like the best or the worst, acknowledges an idea that I think it would be very practical, and it would allow the traffic on Highway 29 to travel without impediment, without stoplights. And I call it a flyover roundabout. So without a stoplight, the traffic north and south would just continue overhead, and down below there'd be roundabout for the local traffic. Sounds complicated, but it's really not. There's several of them around. I made up a little sketch if I could submit it. That'd be all right.
What is it?
It's just a little sketch of what overhead roundabout would look like, if you can imagine, but that's what it is. Just anyhow, like most folks here are concerned about traffic on Highway 29. It's a very important thing to consider. But again, I appreciate your time. We got within the 3 minutes here.
Perfect. 20 seconds to spare.
We're to give this to.
You give it to Mr. Carter and he'll add it to the record. All right. Nancy Edwards.
My name is Nancy Edwards. I live at 241 Trustlows Lane. We own the property that fronts into part of this proposed campground. And my concern, one of my concerns, is the roads leading into this supposed campground. It's Virginia Avenue, Lodabar, Tuckahoe, and Berry Hill. There is line curves. It's a narrow road. It is 16 feet across with some places no berm, and then in other places maybe a 2-foot berm. And the homeowners keep that mode so that we can step off the road when traffic's coming. It's a very steep road, and there's going up there's no guardrails. So any more traffic on that road is probably not the smartest thing in the world to do. And then there's an intersection on our road on Trustlows that is Bottom Hill, and it's a blind intersection. It comes down the hill where this proposed intersection is. It's coming up. If you're turning left, you cannot see. You will be clipped every time you come out of there if anybody's doing any speed. So this would impede the sight lines terribly there. We walk our dogs every day. There's about 14 people that walk that road or walk their dogs on that road daily. And as near as it is, and there's no berm in front of this section of property, it falls off on the side. So when it comes to that, you either step off the road and hope that traffic coming will stop or slow down enough to where you're not hit. There's about 30 homes that are on this road, on Trustlows, and there's 10 on Bottom Lane. And it's a dead-end road, and it's 55 miles per hour. So whatever comes in that road has to go back out that road, and that's about 80 vehicles coming on that road already. So I just think it's a very poor plan to put anything else on there until something is done about the speed limit and about the road itself. So I would ask that you respectfully deny this permit into an established neighborhood that's there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Frank Bishop.
Frank Bishop, 350 Trustlow Lane, Nellie Ford, obviously. We're opposed to this amendment to change the zoning. We bought a home in Trustlow Lane a few years ago. Because of its country setting, its views, and the general rural atmosphere. I checked zoning very carefully and was satisfied it was free from commercial development. We were told by real estate, we were told by neighbors, people who became neighbors, that the water was and could be an issue. The house we bought by the previous owners had ended up with 2 wells being driven before we ever thought about being there. And the gallons per minute out of that well is minimal. I talked to well drillers in the area. They told me the same thing. They're shy about trying to drill a well on Trustlow Lane. They all say the same thing. Sometimes you go 1,000 feet, numerous times come up with absolutely nothing. Who's to pay for that? There are some wells on Trustlow Lane that are over 1,000 feet with minimal gallons per minute. The water issue is real. The other question among many we have is if they find sufficient water for 6 trailers, mobile homes, whatever you want to call them, will that affect our water? Apparently, there's not a great deal under the ground there. Will that affect the aquifer? Will that affect my house, the water that comes through my pump and piping? It could be a serious, serious issue to each and every one that lives there, should we be diminished in the volume of water that we now have. The developers said and explained these tiny pieces have water-saving devices on them.
30 seconds, by the way.
Well, I have water-saving devices on my house. And some of my neighbors, if they use the bathroom and try to wash dishes at a similar time, they run out of water. What's gonna happen when more water is pumped out of Truslow Lane? I'm just wondering if it has an effect. I've had experience with saving water in all these devices.
30, try to wrap up your thoughts, sir.
Campers, excuse me, sir,
Wrap up your thoughts. You're past 3 minutes.
I can't hear you.
Finish your thoughts.
We had 5 minutes, I was told.
3 for an individual.
I was told before it was 5 minutes, sir.
I spoke and read the rules. It's 3 minutes, but I'd give you 30 seconds, okay?
Okay, it's unfair. With the proposed trailers, not only are they eyesore on that property, and we can go to the septic. I have the letter for the septic system for the bird test. That is almost irrelevant. One pass, and they want to put 3 separate dual septic systems on the property. How does that work? And why are they not multiple tests to begin with? And I'm very upset that the 5 minutes was not used. Thank you, sir.
So just as a reminder, it's 3 minutes individual, 5 minutes a group. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, please state the group that you're speaking on behalf of. All right. Now, moving on to Joan Farrell.
Hello.
Bring the mic down.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Joan Farrell. I live at 350 Truslow Lane. And I'm here to oppose the tiny homes. My husband and I live at 350 Truslow Lane. We bought our house in 2012. We searched all over the area to find what we wanted. A quiet neighborhood away from businesses in a residential area. We plan to retire here and enjoy our retirement in a peaceful environment. The idea of having a campground down the road from us raises many concerns. First, we live on the property that is next to the adjoining piece of land, which is presently vacant. One of our worries is if they wanted to expand and acquire that property for their expansion, then the property would be right on top of us. What would stop them from doing that? If they can get a special permit for this, how difficult would it be to expand it further? Another question is if they should sell the property in the future, will the permit remain for the next owners? If an area is zoned as agricultural and residential, it shouldn't be changed just because someone decides they want to put a business there. People that come for a temporary stay and don't have any tie to the area consider they are on vacation and anything goes. The fact that there is not going to be someone on site 24/7 is also concerning, as there is little policing in this area, especially at night. This definitely needs to be addressed. Other issues that are concerning, which perhaps need to be reiterated, are the traffic, the narrow winding roads in the area, the blind hill at the site, the difficult water access, and the actual look and size of these tiny houses on wheels. I will refer more to this last statement. We have been shown several different pictures of these homes, and we are not really sure what they will actually look like. In the statement on the water drainage study, it mentioned the homes being 2-bedroom, where we were informed that they were 1-bedroom. Which is it? Or did they put in 2-bedroom in case they wanted to expand later on? Also, they will be on wheels, which makes them look more like trailers. Are they going to have some way to tie them down? We sometimes have some bad storms and high winds, especially on the hill. I remember the directional we had back when we first bought our house. Safety is always an issue. We chose to live here for what it offers us. There is a reason for zoning laws. A tiny campground may be fine, but not in a residential area. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Bill Hudson.
My name is Bill Hudson. I live at 222 Bottom Lane. I'm here to speak in opposition to the application number 516. As a resident of the Trustlaw and Bottom Lane neighborhood, I'm asking that the application be denied as it fails to comply with 3 of the 4 general standards and criteria for a special use permit as specified in Appendix A of the Nelson County zoning regulations. Specifically, criteria A, B, and C of paragraph 12-3-2. Criteria A reads, the use shall not intend to change the character and established pattern of development of the area or community in which it proposes to locate. Comparing photos of the existing homes, which you guys have, with the representative depiction of the proposed camper units, note that we really don't know what they look like because they have not provided pictures, shows that they will clearly change the character and established pattern of our neighborhood. Criteria B reads, the use shall be in harmony with the uses permitted by right in the zoning district and shall not affect adversely the use of neighboring property. The site in question is currently zoned for agricultural use and is surrounded by a residential neighborhood. The proposed units are commercial, short-term, probably mostly weekend rentals. And we know the type of people that will rent them. They're clearly not in harmony with an agricultural residential neighborhood. Criteria C reads, the proposed use shall be adequately served by essential public or private services such as streets, drainage facilities, fire protection, and public or private water and sewage facilities. There have been valid concerns raised here today and at the February Board of Supervisors meeting and in written correspondence to the supervisors and the planning board regarding the inability of the neighborhood roads to safely handle any additional traffic. There is also the issue of whether additional water can be drawn from the Trustlow's Lane aquifer without adversely affecting the current residents' water supply. There is also a question as whether the planned sewage drain system could pollute the stream and pond located at the bottom of the very steep grade on which the system would be placed. Clearly, the proposed campground cannot adequately be served by the existing essential services.
30 seconds.
These criteria constitute a covenant between Nelson County and its citizens. As a final comment, throughout the application process, the developers have been vague and have made contradictory statements about their proposal. It has been difficult to understand their proposal as their application did not include a written narrative of their project describing its compatibility with the comprehensive plan, the applicable zoning district, the surrounding properties, current and future neighborhood conditions, traffic patterns on site and off site.
You can finish your thoughts.
This narrative is required per the county's special use requirement and procedures and should, of course, include input from the impacted residents. Again, I ask that you deny this application.
Thank you, sir. All right. John Mueller.
John Mueller, 349 Trustlow Lane. Nelson County has selected the Berkeley Group to steer a major update to the county's comprehensive plan, which is a guide for future growth, development, land use, and subsequent revisions of the county zoning and subdivision ordinances. The board approved the Berkeley Group contract for about $160,000, taxpayers' dollars. And that was in December of last year. Discussion with the Berkeley Group begins a little later this month. So they're going to be starting soon. The county hired the Berkeley Group for their experience in helping us as a county to balance economic growth with rural preservation and quality of life for the residents. We, the residents of Trustlow Lane, Bottom Lane, Berry Hill Road, are asking the board to deny this approval of a special use permit and the rezoning application due to the fact that the comprehensive plan is being updated now. Why put the cart before the horse? It does not make logical sense to rezone a residential neighborhood, zoned agricultural to commercial, for a campground with little return to the county. And again, against the wishes of the neighborhood residents. The input of the county residents in this neighborhood must, I'll say that again, must be respected. Do not approve the special use permit 516. It is our quality of life that will be affected on a daily basis if this request is approved. Thank you.
Right, Janet, 417.
Thanks for not attending.
I was gonna say Rue.
Bruce, right.
There we go. Okay.
Janet Bruce, 417 Trustlow Lane, Nellysport, Sydney. I really have a lot of things that I'm objecting to about this permit. One of them being that if this project fails at some point, we will still be stuck with a camping zone in our neighborhood. And who knows what could happen. I don't want a campground on my street, thank you. I don't think you would. And that's really what I'm here to say. Plus, it hadn't been brought up about when you have all 6 homes with possibly 12 cars parked and people coming and going, that our nighttime serenity will be gone. It's wonderful now. We don't have street lights. We don't have any of that. So it's dark at night like it's supposed to be. You can go out and look up and see a beautiful starry sky. And I have a feeling that is not going to happen after we put in all this commercial stuff. This is not a commercial area. You should not allow a commercial site to be put there. Thank you.
Susan, right?
Susan Swink, 599 Trustlow Lane. I will be brief. The proposal for tiny homes has been supported in the past because people are concerned about affordable living, but these are not going to be used as homes. A tiny home or tiny house has to be 400 square feet or less, excluding lofts. The house has to be put on a foundation, however, for it to be actually a home. These will be on wheels, considered a recreational vehicle and less stringent code. They will be under the RV code, and the status is as a trailer. And this is a trailer park in one instance, but because it's short-term rental, it becomes a campground. And that is the right designation for it. It's a commercial business in an established area of homes. And for that reason, I ask you to vote no. Thank you.
Susan? Alice? Everyone?
Hi, my name is Alice Evermine. I live at 605 Truslows Lane. My husband and I bought our property back in '94. We bought 23 acres of the prettiest land. We've got the Rockfish River covering 3 sides of our house. Our family, my husband's family, we go down there, we picnic, we have a good time. Over the years, we've had people move in from California. Her son came down, he abused the place, he killed one of their dogs. It was a nightmare. With that being said, I do not want a campground on my property. And one other thing I'd like to bring up is my sister lives off of Old Stony Creek Road, and she has a beautiful home, and hers is at the end of the road, just like mine. And then there's a neighbor to the right of her. And the guy to the left owned the extra piece of property, and he built a home for his sister who lives in Florida with an ailing husband. She was to come up here and live in the house, and he was going to help take care of her husband. She came down here. She didn't like Nelson County. She wanted to go back to Florida. So he was left with a home, beautiful little home. So he put it up for an Airbnb. And in the last 2 years, my sister has been miserable. She's back in the back. People come across her property. She's got signs up and they walk it. Her dogs go crazy. It's been a nightmare. In the meantime, the guy next to her, he lives in North Carolina, and his family comes down and they get together, his 2 kids and their children, and they live, they do their thing. They go out visiting and come back to their home. They plan to retire there. He has got photos of these people walking onto his property. They go up to the front door. They don't have curtains, just like I don't have curtains because I just love the beauty. And he's got pictures of people doing this in his house. I don't want that. And I don't want to have to go through what I went through with the little guy breaking into my shed and killing my dog. I don't want to go through that again. It was horrible. So I oppose. Thank you.
Right, Kathy Christensen?
Kathy Christensen, 221 Truslows Lane. We've heard the comments from our neighborhood. Here I have a petition of 76 signatures from all the neighbors. One who doesn't live right in this neighborhood, so you can count it as 75. They're all opposed to this project at this location. It's a fine idea, but just not at this location. Developers made no effort to mitigate our concerns at the meeting that they called on our property. The vote was deferred last meeting to allow for more information on water availability and VDOT approval of adequacy of site for commercial entrance. To my knowledge, this has not been completed. The Ecosystem LLC report of November 2021 has, from what I could tell, no engineering stamp, which renders the report unreliable and meaningless. I'm asking the Board of Supervisors to deny the special use permit 516 for an RV campground on Truslows Lane, as it's not the right location. Should this be approved, we request the following conditions be required. This approval is for no more than 6 sites for transient lodging using the tiny home on wheels. This approval does not allow for use of campers, recreational vehicles, tents, or transient lodging. All tiny homes must be set back a minimum of 100 feet from the edge of the right of way of Truslows Lane. Prior to occupying the tiny homes, a double row of evergreen trees, a minimum of 4 feet high, 10 feet on center, must be planted and maintained along Truslows Lane frontage between the tiny homes and the road. Should be on the side too. Alternatively, a 6-foot high opaque fence can be constructed in a single row of evergreen trees. Prior to installing the tiny homes, the applicant shall submit a draft of groundwater plan and aquifer testing work plan. This plan shall demonstrate to the planning director's satisfaction that the neighbor's groundwater needs and the site's groundwater needs have all been considered. Outdoor lighting must be directed below the horizontal to protect the dark night sky. Lighting limited to porch lights is preferable. There must be an on-site host to provide oversight and minimize off-site impacts 24/7. Contact information for the on-site host must be provided to adjacent owners. More than 4 people may occupy each tiny home, no more than 2 vehicles parked at each home. Noise must comply with noise regulations. Quiet time is established. No outdoor amplified music or outdoor activities may occur after 10 p.m. The property may be used for passive recreation for occupants of the tiny homes. Motorcycles and ATVs may not be used for recreation on the property. Firewood must be native to the area and/or kiln dried to prevent infestation of pests that may harm our trees. Again, let me be clear. I'm asking each of you to consider the impact that this campground would have on this residential neighborhood. Once a campground, always a campground. Please vote no. And can I turn this?
Yeah, just give it to Steve. All right. Thank you, Kathy. Is there anyone else who has not signed up for public comments that wishes to speak? Once, twice. All right. Close public comments at this time. Get through a little bit of housekeeping before we get over to the special use permit consent agenda. Can we get unless there's any questions or amendments or questions about the budget amendment, can we get a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Barr. Do we have support?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Reed. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton? Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. VDOT reports.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have a whole lot to report today. Many of you know we're still in the process of picking up trees and debris from the road from the winter storm we had back in January. We are hoping to have that completed in the next few weeks. And we can get on to some other things. I have another matter I want to bring up to you today. As you know, each spring we'll be revising our 6-year secondary road construction plan. And I've been doing some preliminary work on that. And many of you will remember this. This is our Nelson County Rural Rustic Priority List of unpaved roads. We will be needing to add roads. We will be needing to prioritize roads on this list that we have not prioritized. You all prioritized the list last year, 1 through 7.
Where's the deadline that you need that done by?
Well, we need to schedule a
Public hearing.
public hearing, but I just want to give you this information today.
Yeah.
This list where you could be talking and working.
Yeah.
And just be thinking about how you want to prioritize the rest of these roads on this list, because we did not prioritize them all last year. And we will be needing to add additional projects to the plan, so.
That's a good thing.
For Mr. Carter.
Yes, please do.
If you would.
We'll try to be ambitious on getting more roads on.
Yeah, we have a pretty aggressive plan this year.
Great.
So, but with that, I don't really have a whole lot else to tell you all today.
All right. Moving on, Mr. Barton, South District, any questions?
Well, he talked about last week, a curve, warning about a curve in the road in which he completed. And he did it was a great job. It was a great job. And much appreciated in the neighborhood.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harvey?
I don't have anything right now.
All right. Mr. Reed?
During public comments, Mr. Walters' comments about Old Ridge Road and his request that he made for a possible traffic count there.
That's true.
Wondering if that is a possibility.
There's an existing traffic count on that road. I didn't bring my traffic counts with me today, but you know, there's a new traffic count every year. I think 21 counts have not been published yet, so the latest count will be the 2020 counts. I'll be glad to pass that along to the board or to you.
Yeah.
Where is Old Ridge Road?
That's Woodridge. Farnbury way.
Yeah.
I got his email if you got it.
Okay. I don't know that I did get it.
I have his email.
We should arm wrestle to who should bring this up
I can give it to you.
in the short term.
No, that's not a problem.
All right. Is that it, Mr. Reed?
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Parr? Nothing, Mr. Parr. Appreciate the tree cleaning up. I think Laurel between Craigtown Road and Rockford River Road I know y'all are getting trees all over the place. There's one tree that's right there on the corner, right across from Brown's Cove. It's a pine tree. And it's kind of a tight corner. So if you got a truck and a trailer coming on the other side or a school bus, you're kind of hugging it and get to hit the tree.
Except for Brown's Cove and Brown.
So it's Laurel. It's the intersection of Laurel and Browning's Cove.
Yeah, I don't think they back over there.
No, I don't think they got there yet, but just that tree would be great if we could knock that out. That'd be great. All right.
I did have one more thing. The county's picked up their Fort John at the Nelson Wayside.
Thank you.
And we have 2 new Fort Johns up there. One is ADA compatible, and the other is just a normal regular Fort John. I looked at them today. They're new, so just hopefully they'll be maintained.
Good.
And, that's something we've been wanting to get done, so y'all not, we're taking that over from Fort County,
Okay.
So that becomes your responsibility for maintenance.
Forever.
whatever. Involved.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I guess if you might catch Bill on your way out, Bill might want to talk to you about his little survey. If y'all could talk out in the hallway and kind of catch up on load, that'd be great. Any other questions for VDOT this time? Hearing none, thank you so much, Robert. Have a great safe travels down to Charlotte County.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
All right, moving on in the agenda. We now have the special use permit 516. See, we have Emily today. Hi, Emily. Were we going to display anything, or is there anything, any updates that planning and zoning have? Okay, does the applicant have any quick updates you could summarize?
We have a couple of comments.
If you could add a couple comments at this time?
Good afternoon, Daniel Rickard, 831 Thompson Highway. A little over a week ago, Mike, who's my partner, and I hosted a meeting with many of the residents on Trustless Lane and the surrounding area to listen to the community's input on our project. Mike and I were also able to communicate more clearly what we are planning on doing. One of the questions that was raised was also a question that I heard in the last board meeting from one of the supervisors. And that's the question of why tiny houses? Why do we want to build tiny houses on this property? And that's a good question. I want to answer that question by posing this one. What is our alternative? We need the board's approval to move forward on this because of the nature of the project. We're asking for just 6 tiny houses. We will need this approval because of the non-permanent nature of tiny homes. The alternative to tiny homes is something that can be done at any time without the Board of Supervisors or Planning Commission's approval. By right, this 30-acre property can be subdivided and parceled out at least 7 times. Per zoning regulations, this means there's space for 7 permanent structures that could be used for short-term rentals, such as what we'd be using the tiny homes for. Due to the cost of a permanent structure, each of these homes, if were to be used for short-term rentals, would need to be able to accommodate at least 8 to 12 people, so a higher nightly rate could be charged to compensate for the extra cost of the structure. This would necessitate larger structures of 4 to 5 bedrooms each and take up a large footprint on this 30-acre property. Our current tiny house plan would disturb less than 2 acres on this 30-acre parcel. 7 large permanent homes would each require their own well and septic. That's 7 wells. This would disturb even more land. Since the permanent homes would be much larger than tiny homes, they would have washers and dryers, dishwashers, large water heaters, and multiple bathrooms. Each permanent home would use much more water than a single tiny home. Tiny home would use much less. 7 large permanent homes would allow for much more vehicle traffic. With a 4 to 5 bedroom rental, multiple families or couples could stay in each of the 7 homes. This would mean multiple vehicles per house. In contrast, a tiny house would only be able to house about a couple. That's 1 vehicle per 6 tiny homes. I want to address also something that was brought up today, and that is the location of where we're doing this. It's been brought up about the commercial area and versus the residential area. You know, right across the street where we are proposing this is Hilltop Dairy Farm, and that's a commercial use area. And the location of this property is at the beginning of Trusslows Lane. Every single one of the residents' homes that has come today, their houses are past where we are proposing the entry. The only house that's currently sits closer to the entrance to Trusslows Lane is a single wide trailer that's very dilapidated. The entrance where we're proposing for these tiny homes has a 300-foot view on either side coming from both directions. It's not in the blind hill, it's at the top, and it's visible from all directions. As somebody who has a lot of extensive experience directing traffic and working in rural areas, I see no problem whatsoever in turning in and out due to only being a right hand and a left hand turn. Larger homes and more occupants means more potential for noise and even parties. And this is all could be done, do right. 7 homes would completely change the layout of the property, and many of the homes would be impossible to hide. Most of the house sites would need to be along Trusslows Lane directly in front of neighbors due to the topography of the land. Much of this land's rural beauty would be lost with this kind of development, and mountain views would certainly be blocked in some locations. I want to point out again that 7 permanent structures, such as I have described, would require 0 approval from the Board of Supervisors. The reason that we want to do tiny homes is because of the low impact it has on the environment around it. 6 tiny homes would use minimal water. They are eco-friendly. They would only attract 1 vehicle per stay. It will have fewer occupants than a standard home. It would disturb less than 2 acres of the property, and it will not be visible from any of the neighbors' homes. If you stay on any of the current proposed sites, you cannot see any of the neighbors' homes that are before you today. Tiny houses simply make sense and allow us to have minimal impact on the surrounding community. We want this project to highlight what Nelson County has to offer and complement the rural beauty of the land, not destroy it. We want guests from all over to be attracted to the unique experience that can be had by staying in a tiny house. We want to showcase Nelson County as a thought leader in these environmentally friendly tiny homes. You know, Mike and I are just 2 regular guys trying to create something unique and special for Nelson County. I am even willing to uproot my family and move just down the road from the property to be in a better position to manage it. I am fully committed to this project, as this is a pathway for me to provide a better life for my own family. Thank you for your time. I think Mike has a few more comments.
Yes, the first thing I'd like to address is the petition that was mentioned. Not everybody on Trexlo.
Yeah, state your name.
Mike
Sorry.
Patterson, Henrico County. The petition that was mentioned, my understanding is that not everyone on Trexlo Lane was willing to sign it. But I don't want to give the impression to be given that everyone on Trexlo Lane is opposed to this. The other thing that some negative comments that I've heard about our project are words like trailers, mobile homes, eyesores. They are words that are detrimental to what we're talking about. We have showed designs of the beautiful tiny homes we've got. And when I hear words like this, like eyesores, when you drive up and down Trustlows Lane, as we've handed these out before.
If you could hand it to Mr. Carter and he'll distribute.
All right. Thank you. This specific lot that we're buying has been neglected. The areas around it have been neglected. And so I disagree with the notion that putting 6 beautiful tiny homes is going to make this worse. There are homes on cinder blocks. There are deserted houses. There are piles of trash. So to say that somehow tasteful tiny homes, I'm not sure how this tasteful tiny home would bother you, but these piles of trash have been sitting there for years and years are of no concern. So, I mean, our desire is to be part of beautifying the area. As was mentioned, a similar idea to ours is actually being done just up the road in Standardsville at a place called Getaway from DC, where they have built 45 tiny homes in close proximity. It's become very popular attraction for Greene County, and it brings guests seeking to find peace and quiet. And what I want to be clear about is we do not have aspirations to be Getaway from DC. We have zero desire to have 45 tiny homes. We do not have any desire to do what they're doing on a large scale. What we do have aspirations to do is offer what they offer on a much smaller scale. When you read their reviews, the words you repetitively come across are words like unplug, escape, retreat from the demands of a busy life. That's why the place is called Getaway, right? People are not going there to party. They're not going there to have a crazy time. They're going there to escape from those things. To find peace and quiet. If they wanted a party, look around. The 5-bedroom houses in Nelson County are getting bought up and being turned into Airbnbs where big groups can go. You can go to Charlottesville. There are a lot of options for people to go if they want to be loud. That's not what this is. This is an escape. This is an unplug. We're not asking for 45 tiny homes. We're just asking for 6. 6 on 30 acres. And we settled on the number 6 because we felt it did 3 things. It's a compromise to offer an experience like this one. It would allow us to fulfill our dream, but also it would allow us to preserve the landscape of the area, which, as we've mentioned, is very important to us. And I can assure you, Scout's honor, you will not see us before you again requesting additional permits. We will not be here requesting additional permits. I don't care if this is a great success. We're not doing it for that. We're not doing it for financial gain. Do we want to pay our bills? Sure. We're doing it so people can create unique memories, so we can create something unique to Nelson County. We believe we found the perfect spot for this. We will preserve the landscape. We will be the most attractive option for these 30 acres to utilize them to a much lesser extent than anyone else buying the property would be. Mrs. Carson has indicated to us if we don't go through it, she's going to sell this to somebody who's going to want to break it up and put as much density on the property as they can. We will be a positive addition to the area. We've met with the neighbors. We are open to the suggestions of creating privacy. And Daniel is willing to relocate from Livingston to live less than a mile away from the property, or to even build himself a home on the property so he can literally see them. He's willing to do that. We are willing to do that. We want our dreams and aspirations for this property carried out flawlessly. And we're committed to this small, tasteful project and making it a success so that Nelson County can see firsthand the role that smaller homes can play for residents and guests alike. That residences can be small, they can be cost effective, and they can fit into the beautiful landscapes of Nelson County. And we would be grateful for the opportunity to demonstrate all of those things. The ramifications of this for Nelson County residents, not just visitors, is a tremendous one. That's currently not being considered because of the costs of construction. In closing, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my partner, Daniel. He resides, as you probably know, in Livingston and is a police officer. He works the 2 p.m. to the 12 a.m. shift. Daniel and I share a dream for this project and for the love of tiny homes. And I admire Daniel deeply for his desire to build things, but more so for his pursuit to build something better for his family. Because your wife staying up every night past midnight to make sure you made it home safely is not a sustainable lifestyle for somebody with, or a family with small children. I don't know what that's like. I have no idea what that's like. It's certainly very demanding. And I love that Daniel wants an option for his family so he does not have to do this for the rest of his life. He's committed. He's committed to staying in Nelson County and being one of the young families that this county needs more of. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about his story and his motivation for this project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, at this time, does the board have any questions for staff or the applicant? Are we prepared to discuss the special use permit? Questions? All right.
I have a question.
Not right now.
All right, what is your,
I have a question
To who?
for the applicant.
if you could just go, yeah.
One of the things about this project that concerns me most is the water question. And I know you're not required to do any, pre-submission water quality or water supply information to add to this in order to make your application for a special use permit. Given that the area has such a problem with water already, it certainly could be useful if that information might have been available ahead of time. Of course, that was one of the things that was mentioned when we said maybe waiting 30 days would give us more information. We don't have that. I do wonder if you aren't able to get water from the groundwater to fulfill the quota of water you're going to need for your development, what's the potential for the pond that is on your property? Is that something that can be utilized for water if the groundwater works?
I don't think we haven't considered the pond yet. I know there's water collection opportunities out there and other avenues that we could explore. We haven't explored any of those yet. I think, we did speak to some residents there that have great water and some that have had problems in the past. And I think one point I'd like to point out is that, this is 30 acres and it's one of the largest parcels in on that road. And all those houses do have water and some of them have great water. And it'd be my hope that somewhere on that property we'll find. I know some people put a lot of stock, a lot of old guys that do wells and that are friends of mine, they'll go on the witch for water. And I've always been able to do that. I've always been able to locate water and follow it. This is where the water's going. This is your water line. Dig. Yeah, there's a water line right there. In the past when I did construction, I've walked the property and I've identified multiple spots that have indicated there's water there. You can take some stock into that, but until you start digging a well, you don't truly know. So I'd like to think based on those indicators, the large property and multiple people on the road tell us that they have plenty of water. Some have had issues finding water. I'd like to think on 30 acres we'd definitely be able to find water somewhere on there, especially since the topography does drop quite a ways. We could, I'm sure somewhere on that property we could find water. It's a lot of acreage,
I think the advantage that we have from the soil ecologist, I believe his title was he came out and he did a lot of digging. It was primarily for septic, but we asked him about well also. And his point was, looking at the types of soils and the topography and grade of our property, of course, which goes, most of the houses are only on top. We have this because of a substantial lot. It goes down deep into the valley and then back up. And his estimate guess was that we would have no problem somewhere. Would we not be able to find it up top? We may not, but it's somewhere down here. High likelihood that he said I would recommend buying the land because I do believe you have that positive chance of finding it. Is it going to be up here? Can't promise you that, but on this whole space, feel very confident that we can find it. Confident enough I can tell you yeah, you should buy it for what that's worth.
Thanks.
Any other questions for the applicants before they sit down? All right, thank y'all. Moving on, any questions for staff? Nope. We could go on ahead and hear what the pleasure of the board is and discuss.
So we'll just say what we think at this time.
Well, you have to,
And, it's funny, being here in this time which we live, I'm used to hearing things that are positive, young people in Nelson County, small houses, that kind of thing. But also, when a person comes to live in Nelson County, they come for many reasons. And one of those reasons is they want to live in a rural area. And even people who have spent their whole life here appreciate the beauty of the place and they want to live there. And if you choose a place that is a mile or two from the main road, you should be assured that you will not have a commercial business in your neighborhood. It's almost like a covenant, Now, I have no problem with the idea and the concept of what they're trying to do. And I went to the property and I spent a half hour standing there and looking around and realized why they picked the spot, because wintergreen is in the snow and I could see the snow and it's kind of a beautiful place and you can sit on the porch and ski time and et cetera. But I also knew that people moved there because it did not have commercial businesses in the area. And that has to be respected. You must, if the thing was near 151, or there can be the places in Nelson County where you don't affect other residents, other people who live there, it's a great idea. But I cannot support a commercial operation in a place where people have come to live without that there.
anyone else wish to speak? All right, Mr. Reed.
I've addressed this project at length various times. It's come before the board and the planning commission. The comments that we received today, I think, reflect the tone of the community on the project and the matters of concern, which are significant, water, traffic, and the complexion and the pattern of development in the neighborhood. I think the residents have done a very good job, explaining those. I can't get around the water issue, which is really significant to me, because unless item 3, the proposed use should be adequately served by essential public or private water, without knowing that, it's really, I think, impossible to assume that it would. I think the community is doing, in this case, has done an excellent job at holding our feet to the fire to make sure that we do what's in the best interest, for the county. And I think their comments have been well presented and well articulated. Everything from the inadequacy of our current zoning to address a specific issue like tiny homes, to what it would mean if this permit was allowed and then transferred to a subsequent buyer of the property and what would be allowable there. Neither of which would be necessarily what we're looking for our county to look at in terms of our comprehensive plan that we're having the rollout within a week. So this is a very important thing. So I'd like to wait to hear from the rest of the board before I make a motion.
Mr. Harvey?
I think one of the things that was discussed a while ago that's got to be brought up is the fact that they have by right now, I believe it was 6 homes that you could put.
I think it was 7. Is it 6 or 7?
It's
Emily?
30 acres in
I think it's 7.
Is it parceled off at 7, or is it, I've also heard 2 per acre, so if you do.
So that's, let's try not to get too much back and forth, but
well,
let's have Emily come up real quick and address that quick.
what I'm saying is by right, it could be a lot more land. And by doing it this way, it actually,
How many acres is the parcel?
29 and some change.
All right, so I believe it would be 7 parcels if they were to break it up and do a subdivision. If they were to just build houses on it, you would do 1 house per 2 acres. This would require a major site plan for 3 or more houses on 1 parcel. But a major site plan is only going to go to the planning commission. Sure. And they're just going to be evaluating it based on whether or not it conforms with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. It's not going to be reviewed like a special use permit or rezoning. And then I also wanted to make sure that you guys saw, there was 2 letters from Ecosystem Services. There was one from January 13th, and a new one from February 24th that discussed the well bores. So make sure you saw that.
Yes, we have those.
You
Thank
have
you,
anything
Emily.
else on it?
Maybe, who knows? Sit nearby.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harvey. Okay. I concur with Mr. Harvey in the sense of, the question is what is by right? What is more? Obviously, we have several different areas that have very sensitive aquifers. Woods Mill is one that comes to mind. There's some locations out in Schuyler that have very sensitive aquifers, and I guess this one as well in Trestlo's Lane. And of course, that exists with or without homes in many instances. And the question is will it impact, for the aquifer? The fact is that there is the ability to build 6 to 7 homes, and though the topography is a little bit different, so I don't know if they'd ever really pragmatically do 7, but the right does exist. That would, in my mind, be more intense in terms of water usage. Just through my experience and what I can imagine happening. I don't necessarily think that these 6 homes would be more of an impact than 7 homes, or 6 tiny homes. The question is if the board is to deny, or if it is to approve, with what stipulations are, if any stipulations. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents out there that I generally support it with stipulations. Okay. Silence. Yes, if we could begin looking at getting a motion from the board on an action.
I think one of the issues that very important to look at is What does a person who moves into Nelson County, what can they think about the place that they're gonna move to? I mean, if they move into, and this is an extremely rural area, how much of a assurance will they have that it will remain rural? I mean, all over the county, you have the problem, you know, you have the right of this, the right of that, you know, and maybe the plan can address those things in the long run. But until that time comes, it's us, we represent the people of Nelson County. And it's for us to protect their life.
Comprehensive, for the record, it's important that we echo this. Comprehensive plans have no teeth. It is a guidance. It's a general idea where the board perceives certain things should happen. Where true teeth and where the by rights come from is zoning and how we define zoning. From A1, R1, R2, definitions such as vacation homes, and so many of those items that we've brought up before. So it's not just the comprehensive plan, that's step one. And comprehensive plan is going to take 2 years, probably, pragmatically. It's going to take 2 years to accomplish. And then to add in those conversations of, and we'll do intermittent zoning changes without a doubt, you know, zoning, if you're talking about the assurance, is the only way to do that. And 90% of Nelson County is agriculture, if not more. So there is that assurance that does exist. There are certain things that are in place that some would say is not of a rural character, which obviously we've had the argument about farm breweries, farm wineries. They can happen at any place that's zoned agriculture at any time via state code. So, you know, I think just trying to get to your point of an assurance of what rural is, I mean, you know, it's difficult with the number of by rights and then also what the state deems is a by right as well.
I mean, I'm not arguing what is by right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't imagine that the market will support 7 houses in that area. And these people are willing to take that risk, I think. That's what they expressed, the willingness to take that risk. And are we saying we're protecting them by approving this? I think they have a right to decide that we shouldn't be the ones protecting them when they have seen for themselves what kind of protection they want.
Where does the rights of the property owner come in? What you're talking about is neighbors and not the guy that actually owns the property.
I think a lot of these people have thought about that. You know, I mean, that is, you know, that's part of the equation.
Clearly, what's being proposed today is not by right.
Correct.
Hence, the application for a special use permit.
Correct.
So they're applying to do something that's not by right. Therefore, we have criterion in our code that's supposed to reflect whether when someone applies for something that can be done by special use permit would be approved. Don't see that this at all fits that. And in terms of what this property could have by right, Mr. Harvey is correct, as y'all are, in terms of what currently this property could support by right. But just because it's supported by right, it doesn't mean that they can do it. It means they can apply for it because they still have to have water. If they don't have water, they can't do those developments. So you can't have development rights unless you have water. And it's not clear here that there is sufficient water, not just for future development rights, but for this project.
But there's not a lot in this county that has a guarantee that water's on that property,
Absolutely.
you know, so I mean,
You're right.
The threshold for water is an interesting piece because the health department does define that. I believe it's there's a reservoir requirement. When you got 30 acres, you could probably find it somewhere. But I understand what you're saying.
Does anybody think that this use would not change the character and the pattern of development in the community? Can anybody say that it won't?
I think if you do anything on any field, it changes the character. I mean, you could put a pig farm. You could put, some by right stuff. That is the interesting piece there. When we get that word of character, how is it you define it? Is it the
That's
field?
what a special use permit is. You're supposed to take the process to define what that is. And I think it's been clearly defined by the community in this case.
And you talk about the right of ownership. People applying for this don't own the property. They want to own the property. They want to buy it. They don't own it now.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would like to move that, that we deny special use permit, 516 campground on Trustworth Land.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Do we have support?
Yes, a second.
Second from Mr. Barton. Discussion. Hearing no discussion. Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
no.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
No. All right, we have a motion to deny. Recess. Let's go to the bathroom.